What's up, guys? Welcome back to the next video of today. We're watching his story. Yes, finally we're watching his story. This actually his YouTube channel was blowing up. Because they said they got 10,000 subscribers in a day or something, 100 in a day. So let's get into the video now.
When Mr. Chang came stomping over and yanked it out of my arms. 5 bear 1 month. Nobody win 5 bear. You cheat. He grabbed my arm, dragged me to the door, and threw me onto the sidewalk. He wanted a cheater, so I figured I'd give him one. I went home and ordered a bunch of plastic tokens off Amazon, the exact size of a game, not for girl. You go play with doll. Okay, sweetie? I smiled, walked over to Pac-Man, dropped a token, took the top score, and punched in CHA. Pac-Man had a top 10 leaderboard, 3 letters per slot. I took number 1 that first run, and planned to claim the next open slot every win until the message finished. Chang spun and screamed at a kid 2 cabinets over. You touch game too hard. You break. Out. I claimed the next slot and punched in NGS while he dragged the kid out. Wednesday, I came back in a full Spider-Man suit. Chang grabbed his wife by the arm and pointed at me from behind the counter. Look, honey, Lil Spidey-Man come to play. He shoot web from hand. Pew pew. I won Pac-Man and punched in UKS. Then Chang came around the counter and started walking toward me. My mask was riding up. Instead of bolting, I claimed the next slot and punched in BIG with Chang.
Yeah, I'm watching another video. Watch compilation.
I opened my son's Instagram live and saw he was standing on the edge of a building.
Sorry
Welcome
if it's...
to Factor Cap. What the hell? What was Justin doing? I could see the likes popping up on the corner of the screen. Guys, I had no idea, but today Mr. Foley told us that Red Bull gives you wings. Today we're gonna test if that's cap or not. No,
don't do it.
Please tell me this is a joke. But I could see he was on the roof of his school. I instantly swiped off the live and dialed his teacher. Hello? My son is on the roof of the school. I think he's about to jump, but she just laughed and said, Sir, those doors are locked. There's no way he's up there. I swiped back onto the live. Now there were more of his classmates up there, and they all started yelling, chug, chug, chug. I swiped back to the phone call and yelled, oh my God, you have to hurry. He's about to jump. I was already jumping in my car, sweating through my clothes, but I heard her say, wait, no. The door is locked. I can't get up there. Locked? How did they lock it? I swiped back to the live and watched as his classmates were pushing things in front of the door to the roof, all standing in front of it so nobody could stop him. He was getting ready to jump again. I couldn't let my son die because of Mr. Foley's dumb lie, so I broke every traffic law just to get there. I was speeding with one hand, watching the live with the other. Okay guys, Mr. Foley better have been telling the truth. Kids were typing, do it, and fly Justin, and I was going 90 down that residential road. I screeched into the parking lot and saw him up there. I was almost out of time, and just as I burst through the school doors, I heard them yelling, Justin, don't jump, but they were already counting down. I ran up the stairs and saw multiple teachers pounding on the door to get onto the roof, one being Mr. Foley, and as bad as I wanted to punch him in the face, I had to get to Justin first. I could hear them outside. 3, 2, 1, no! And just as we all busted through that door, we saw Justin running toward the edge of the building. I screamed, Justin, no! But he jumped. He flew off the edge of the building, thinking he was about to fly. Everyone screamed, cried, and he hit the ground. I looked over at Mr. Foley. You told him to jump off the roof? He tried to make up an excuse. How was I supposed to know he'd believe me? I was just joking. And in that moment, I couldn't hold back. As they loaded him into the ambulance, I shoved Mr. Foley off the roof too. My little brother was constantly coming home from school with new cuts and bruises, but when I asked him about it, he told me he was playing football at school. His school was next to mine, so at lunch, I went over to see what was really going on. He wasn't anywhere near any of the kids playing football, but when I asked a kid where he was, he pointed to a corner. I walked over and saw him sitting, reading a book, and just as I was about to leave, I heard a familiar voice. I turned around and saw my ex-girlfriend and her best friend go up to him. They started making fun of him, throwing things at him, even grabbing his book out of his hands, ripping it in half. Then she even went as far as to kick him a few times. I immediately stormed over and told her to get out of there, but I could tell this wasn't the end. My mom wanted to tell the principal and get her expelled, but I had a better idea. The next day, I took him to the ice cream shop where she worked and told him to go get some. He's deathly allergic to gluten and dairy, so after he asked for it to be specially made, I knew she would try something. I stood in a corner where I could see. see her making it and managed to get a video on my phone of her mixing in milk and wafers to the bottom. This would have killed him. I showed the manager, and instead of getting expelled, she now has a criminal record. After 8 years on death row, I was ready to
Let's
die.
go.
They said I killed Rebecca. My fingerprints were on the knife. My blood was at the scene. I told them I didn't do it, but nobody believed me. I spent years fighting, filed every appeal, exposed every contradiction in the evidence. None of it mattered. My lawyer stopped returning my calls. My appeals were exhausted. My family stopped visiting 2 years ago. Even my own mother thought I did it. The only person who ever believed me was my grandmother, and she passed away 5 years ago. So when they asked what I wanted for my last meal, I thought of her. Her meatloaf, the one she made me every birthday. I wrote out her recipe from memory, every measurement and technique precise. An hour later, the prison chef showed up at my cell holding my form. What is this? Meatloaf. This is a novel, not a recipe. Ground beef 60%, ground pork 40, breadcrumbs soaked in whole milk for exactly 10 minutes. Yellow onion, not white, sautéed in butter until translucent. Fresh thyme, not dried. Worcestershire, 2 tablespoons, no substitutes. And this glaze with brown sugar and apple cider vinegar, brushed on at 340 degrees, 20 minutes before done. He looked at me through the bars. Why so specific? It's how my grandmother made it. She's gone now. If I'm going to die Friday, I want to taste her cooking one last time. He was quiet for a moment. Some of these ingredients we don't stock. Fresh thyme, whole milk, real butter. I'll have to special order them. I have 48 hours. He sighed. I'll make it exactly how you wrote it. Thursday morning, the ingredients arrived and the chef started cooking. I could smell it from my cell an hour later. Onions sautéing in butter. Grandma's kitchen. Saturday mornings, her humming while she cooked. I sat on my bunk and cried for the first time in 8 years. Thursday afternoon, the chef ran into problems. The oven temperature wouldn't hold steady. He had to recalibrate, start over on the glaze twice. It has to be perfect, he told the warden. It's his last meal. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. Not from fear, from the smell. The meatloaf baking through the night while I sat alone with memories of the only person who believed I was innocent. Friday, execution day. 10 a.m. and no meal yet. Noon, and the chef said the glaze wasn't right. 2 p.m., a guard brought regular prison lunch because the meatloaf still wasn't ready. 4 p.m., 2 hours left. The smell was overwhelming. Guards kept walking past the kitchen just to breathe it in. 5 p.m., the warden came to my cell. Your meal isn't ready. We're delaying the execution 2 hours. 6 p.m. came and went. The original execution time. I was still alive, waiting for meatloaf. 7:30, the chef finally appeared with a covered plate. He looked exhausted. He uncovered it, and the meatloaf looked exactly like my grandmother's. I ate slowly, savored every bite. Perfect. I finished the last bite at 7:51. 9 minutes left. The guard opened my cell. Time to go, Preston. They walked me down the hallway past other cells. Inmates were silent. They always were during execution walks. We reached the preparation room. The chaplain asked if I wanted to pray. I said no. 7:55. 5 minutes. They started walking me toward the chamber. That's when the warden's phone rang. He answered, and his face changed.
God
Stop.
damn.
Everyone stop moving.
And
What's
I
happening?
just want to
Rebecca's
say
ex-boyfriend just
today
confessed to
I'm
her
gonna
murder.
be
You're
watching
innocent. My
only
legs gave
like
out. A guard caught me. The
videos.
chef appeared in the hallway out of breath. He
This
slid
is
down the wall and
22,
sat next to
so
me. If that meatloaf had been ready on time, you'd already be gone. I just sat there, still alive. Because my grandmother's recipe was too complicated to rush. She saved my life.
12 more
My
videos.
brother was promoted to head surgeon at Dad's retirement party. Then a
Actually,
patient's widow stood
now
up. My
it's
brother Michael was
11
everything our
videos.
surgeon father wanted. Harvard medical degree, perfect surgical record, golf club membership. I went to state medical school and worked at a free clinic treating addicts and homeless patients. At Dad's retirement party from chief of surgery, Michael was getting his position while I sat at table 12 with the janitors. Dad stood at the podium praising Michael's flawless career to 200 guests, including the hospital board. Michael represents the best of medicine, he said. While I knew Michael took bribes from pharmaceutical companies and billed insurance for procedures he never performed, Michael took the microphone and made a toast about carrying on the tradition of excellence, not like some doctors who waste their talents in homeless shelters. Looking directly at me while everyone laughed, he walked past my table, stopped, and said loud enough for others to hear, "Maybe when you're done playing Mother Teresa with the junkies, I can find you a position cleaning bedpans." His wife laughed. Their infant children applauded, and I sat there burning because everyone thought he was perfect when I knew he was a fraud. My own mother said, "At least one of my sons made something of himself," looking directly at me. Michael was getting his third standing ovation when I noticed a woman in black near the back, holding an iPad and staring at Michael with pure hatred. When Michael raised his champagne glass, I saw her mouth the word murderer. Michael was mid-sentence when the woman stood up. "My husband wasn't your first patient to die, was he, doctor?" The room went silent as she walked forward. 3 years ago, you operated on my husband Druck, Alan Martinez, the construction worker with the routine hernia repair who mysteriously died on your table. I felt my stomach drop. I knew Michael was corrupt, but I had no idea he was a killer. Michael's face drained of color. "I don't know what you're talking about, ma'am. You need to leave." She held up her iPad. "I have the security footage the hospital thought they deleted." She connected it to the presentation screen. Everyone watched Michael stumble into the OR at 2 in the morning, clearly intoxicated, pushing past a nurse who tried to stop him. "That's my husband on the table," she said as Michael scrubbed in while swaying. "The hospital paid me $2 million to stay quiet, but I kept everything. The toxicology report showing your blood alcohol was 0.18. The emails from hospital lawyers lawyers coaching me to lie. The falsified death certificate. Dad stood up, face purple with rage. Tell me she's lying, you demanded. Michael couldn't look at him. Dad, I can explain. You killed patients? You operated drunk and I promoted you? His voice broke. I defended you to everyone, including your brother. There were 2 other families, the widow announced. We've been planning this for months. 2 more families walked through the doors. One holding a photo of their dead daughter, another of their father. Catherine Walsh died during routine gallbladder surgery. Robert Franklin died during knee replacement. Both operated on by Dr. Michael while
Robert
intoxicated. The board
Franklin.
president stood. Dr.
Where
Michael, your
do I
medical license
know
is
the
suspended
name
immediately
Frank?
pending criminal investigation. Security escorted Michael out. His wife
Hey.
grabbed their children and fled. Dad stood there shaken, looking at me for the first time in years. Really looking at me. I backed the wrong son. The CEO approached me. We need someone with integrity to rebuild trust. Will you accept chief of surgery? I looked at my father's empty chair, then at the room full of people who just watched the golden child fall, and said yes. We were sitting in class. We need someone with integrity to rebuild trust. Will you accept chief of surgery? We all started laughing. She was holding up the pack of candy on her desk. Mitch laughed. Yeah, you had a bunch of
at this point. Oh my god!
This is a man's world. This is a man's world. Had a bunch in that pack, and as soon as he said that, our teacher instantly started panicking. No, no, no. How many? How many of you ate them? At least 8 of us ate them. Well, we just wanted something sweet. I thought you left them out for us, but they didn't actually taste that sweet, which is weird. Our teacher was panting, but sat down to call someone. We heard her whisper, "Oh my god, the kids in my class ate them. What do I do? Oh my god." We were all looking at each other now, starting to get worried. "Hey teacher, what were those candies?" But she didn't respond. She just ran out to grab Miss Grant from across the hall. But when she took one look at the container on the desk, she literally gasped. "Gave them those." Now my classmates were starting to get worried. Liza was trying to hold back her tears because she ate the most out of anyone. Our teacher was sobbing now. We were really scared now. Miss Grant just said, "We need the nurse," but our teacher tried to stop her. Wait, maybe they didn't eat enough to, but it was too late. Mitch yelled, "What were they? Were they bad?" But the bell rang. The day was over. But when we tried to leave, the nurse blocked us. None of you are leaving. My classmates were starting to cry now because it must have been poisonous. Ambulances showed up, and paramedics came inside and started asking everybody questions. Liza started having a panic attack, hyperventilating, her skin turning gray. The paramedics were rushing to treat her, but someone banged on the door. It was our parents. Liza's dad got there first, and when he saw his daughter, he lost it. "Hey, what the hell did you do to my girl?" But nobody let them inside the room. Our teacher was bawling her eyes out, and they were making so much noise, our principal showed up. He pushed his way through shouting, "What did you do? Why are there ambulances here?" She whispered something to him. We couldn't hear what she said, but we saw his face. His eyes went wide. "You brought those to school?" The parents went absolutely ballistic. Liza's dad shoved past everyone and grabbed the principal by the shirt collar. "What did you give my daughter?" Other parents started joining in, screaming, getting in the principal's face. Finally, the principal just snapped. He threw his hands up and screamed, "Relax, okay? Just relax. What was it? Nothing's gonna happen. She just might get pregnant." Liza's dad just stared at him shocked. "Pregnant? Pregnant? What do you mean?" Then, as he was literally about to punch him in the face, but just as he swung, our teacher yelled, "Wait!" She told him to stop and stepped up. "I've been trying for a baby, but it isn't working. These pills are supposed to help me get knocked up. They all ate my fertility pills." Everyone was speechless. Mitch said, "Wait, so our teacher's trying to get freaky? The night I robbed my father was the night I stopped hating him." My dad kept a metal chest in the corner of our garage that nobody was allowed to touch. It sat there for years, covered in cobwebs, with faded red letters that said, "Do not open." When I was 8 and my brother Joel was 6, we got caught just standing near it, not touching it, just looking. Dad's face turned purple. He grabbed the thickest belt from the wall and locked us in the garage for 20 minutes. After that, we stayed far away from the chest, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. What was so important that he'd beat us just for looking? The garage was where Dad kept his tools hanging on the wall like a display. Leather belts arranged by thickness, extension cords wrapped in perfect coils, a wooden paddle he'd made himself, still stained with old brown spots. If we got anything below a B on our report cards, it meant an hour in the garage. If we talked back, the tools came out. And just to make sure we really learned our lesson, he'd spray cleaning solution on the wounds so they'd burn and sizzle while we screamed. Mom would turn up the TV and pretend nothing was happening. One night, Joel spilled juice on Dad's work papers by accident. I watched Dad's eyes go dark as he stood up from the table. Garage. Now. That session was different. Dad used everything on the wall. He told Joel he was going to beat the ADHD out of him. Joel passed out twice, and Dad dumped cold water on him to wake him up so he could keep going. I stood outside the door listening to my little brother beg for mercy while Mom vacuumed the living room. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I couldn't make myself move. Something inside me broke that night. I got a job at the grocery store and hid money in a sock under my mattress. I researched bus routes and cities where 2 teenage boys had disappeared, but I needed more money than minimum wage could give me. That's when I started thinking about the chest again. The opportunity came 6 months later when Dad left for a weekend hunting trip. I shook Joel awake at midnight. "We're leaving tonight." We crept down to the garage with flashlights, and my hands were trembling as I pulled the tarp off the chest. I found a crowbar on the wall and wedged it under the lock. It took 3 tries before the metal snapped. Inside was nothing like I'd
Oh
imagined.
my
Stacks of
god.
$100 bills wrapped in rubber bands. Underneath
Oh
the money was a black handgun
shoot.
and a box of bullets. And at the very bottom, photographs. I held one up to my flashlight and my stomach lurched. It was Dad as a kid, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with bruises covering his arms and face. Standing behind him was a man who looked like an older, meaner version of my father, his father. I grabbed all the money and stuffed it in my backpack. Joel reached for the gun, but I slapped his hand away. We're not like him. We left the gun exactly where we found it. 3 months later, my aunt tracked us down at the motel where we'd been staying. "He's gone." I gripped the phone harder. "What do you mean, gone?" "He went into the garage 3 nights ago and didn't come out. Your mom heard screaming for hours. Then one loud bang. My legs gave out, and I sat down hard on the motel bed. He left a note," she said. 5 words. I failed. I couldn't break the cycle. I didn't cry because I missed him. I cried because I finally understood him. He'd kept those photos his whole life, evidence of what his father did to him. He knew exactly what he was doing to us, and he couldn't stop himself. The chest wasn't a secret. It was a confession he couldn't make out loud. Joel and I never touched a belt, never raised our voice, never lifted a hand. The cycle broke with us. My daughter finally brought home a boyfriend I didn't want to kill. I'd been striking out with her boyfriends for 6 straight years. Kevin stole $20 from my wallet during Thanksgiving dinner. Brad showed up wasted to my wife's birthday and puked all over our new carpet. Then there was Connor, who called me sir while dealing weed to middle schoolers behind the 7-Eleven. So when my daughter Alyssa said she was bringing home her new college boyfriend for spring break, I braced myself for another disaster. "His name's Alex," she announced, "and he's just Dad." I'd heard that line every single time. Alex rolled up Friday afternoon in a beat-up Honda, older than my daughter. He walked to our door with nervous energy and a firm handshake. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Palos," he said, looking me dead in the eye. Most of her exes couldn't manage that much. Still, I learned not to trust good first impressions. During dinner, he was polite enough, asked about my work, complimented my wife's enchiladas, helped clear plates without being asked. He kept his phone in his pocket the entire meal. I found myself grudgingly impressed, but experience taught me the charming ones were usually the most dangerous. 2 nights later, I was in the garage at midnight wrestling with my motorcycle's stubborn carburetor. Alex appeared in the doorway looking sheepish. "Saw the light
Okay,
and thought you
last
might need help."
story.
My dad and I used to work on bikes before he passed. I know engines pretty well. Instead of awkward small talk, he rolled up his sleeves and actually knew what he was doing. We worked in comfortable silence for an hour. He handed me tools before I asked. When we finally got the engine purring, he didn't take credit, just smiled and said it felt good to work with his hand.
Not a freaking ad again.
With his hands again. Next morning, I found my toolbox organized better than it had been in years. Every socket in its place. A note read, "Thanks for letting me help." Reminded me of my old man. I was starting to like this kid, but I was still waiting for the catch. 6 years of losers had trained me too well. On their last day, my wife collapsed in the kitchen making breakfast. 1 second she was flipping pancakes. The next, she hit the floor hard. Looked like a heart attack. Alyssa started screaming. I fumbled with my phone, hands shaking too bad to dial. Alex dropped to his knees beside my wife and started checking her pulse with steady hands. "He's an EMT," Alyssa sobbed. "An EMT. I'd been so busy hunting for red flags, I never once asked what he did for work." He kept my wife conscious and calm while we waited for paramedics, talking in that steady voice first responders use. At the hospital, Alex stayed 8 hours, even though his flight left that evening. Missed his connection. Paid $400 to rebook. When I tried to reimburse him, he refused. Alyssa needed me here. That's what you do for family. While we waited for test results, he quietly handled everything I was too stressed to think about. Called Alyssa's work, picked up prescriptions, made sure we had food at home, called my wife's sister so I didn't have to repeat the story 10 times. My wife was fine, just exhaustion and low blood sugar. Driving him to the airport the next day, Alex turned to me. "Mr. Palos, I love your daughter. I'd like your permission to propose after graduation." I pulled over and looked at this kid who'd proven himself when it mattered most. After 6 years of losers and letdowns, my daughter finally found a keeper. "You have my blessing," I said. "They're getting married next summer." He already calls me Dad. Everyone at our school knew Luis was a drug dealer. He didn't even try to hide it. The cops would pull him over for just existing, and whenever they caught kids with something, they'd instantly search him. But every time they did, they never caught him with anything. Police would show up and rip his locker open, pat him down, and he just laughed at them every time. One time, someone spread a rumor that it was in a locker nobody used, so they cut locks off every single locker. Still, they found nothing. They had literally no idea what to do. Every time they caught them with something, they'd say, "I bought this."
So, I think that's gonna be enough for today. Part's gonna coming out soon. And I guess that's all for me. So see you guys in the next video. And sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Now for more content. And I think nothing else. Peace.